Welcome, unstoppable soul, you who bear the storm of your own becoming, and yet stand fierce in the pulse of darkness and light. You are not here to whisper, you are here to roar. You are not here to fade into background voices. You are the echo that will haunt the regrets of yesterday and the dreams of tomorrow. You hit different. They can't stop thinking about you. You impacted so many lives. Feel it deep in your bones. Embrace the magnetism you carry. Accept the gravity of your presence. Let your heart beat with the thunder of your own legacy. Today, you stand in that moment. Today, you claim your roar, your cadence, your unstoppable charge into life and impact. You hit different because you have walked through shadows. You saw the night when others shut their eyes. You faced the cold when others turned away. You rose when the world insisted you fall. You are the contradiction of fear and fire. In the quiet corners of people's memories you reside. You left footprints, not just on paths but across souls. They remember you because you dared to shine when the lights were flickering. They remember you because you refused to shrink. They remember you because your courage said, "I am more than your expectation. I am your awakening." They can't stop thinking about you because you shattered illusions. You showed them that limitation is a story, not a sentence. You revealed that pain can be a tool and not a tomb. They watched you, not because you sought their gaze, but because you lived your truth in a way that demanded witness. You walked through the fire of your mistakes. You carried the scars like medals. You stood in the wreckage and said, "I will build from here." And in doing so, you became more real, more vivid than any fabricated image. You became a reference point. You became the line in the sand others measure their courage against. Know this, your impact is not measured by applause. Your impact is measured by the silent acknowledgements of souls who saw your light flicker and then blaze. Your influence is measured by voices you may never hear, and hands you may never shake, but hearts you forever changed. When you spoke truth in a room that demanded falsehood, someone else dared to speak. When you held your ground when the world pushed you down, someone else discovered what standing meant. You touched lives not because you tried to please, but because you tried to live. Feeling the weight of that? Good. Because you carry power. And power does not wait for permission. It does not ask for approval. It demands authenticity. It demands that you look in the mirror and see yourself as you are. Unique, irreducible, unrepeatable. Your journey, with its raw edges, its hidden wounds, its bruised victories, becomes the invitation for others to step up. When you rise from the fragments, you teach others the blueprint of survival. When you laugh in spite of loss, you become the evidence of resilience. When you love in spite of fear, you hold the torch for countless who thought love was broken. You hit different because you are not the echo of someone else's triumph. You are the origin of your own. You shaped your story with your hands even when they trembled. You planted seeds of hope even when the ground cracked under your feet. You bend reality by acting, by persisting, by refusing the default path. And in the afterglow of your choosing, you inspired. There is no monotone in you. There is no generic version. You are the defiance. You are the wildfire. You are the whisper in the ear of someone who believed they were alone. They can't stop thinking about you because you projected possibility where there was none. You projected presence where invisibility reigned. You projected purpose in the midst of aimlessness. You became the living proof that broken things can still sing. You moved like an anomaly, and that unsettled the world. But unsettled is good, because unsettled means changed. People remember the ones who disturb the still waters. People remember the ones who insist on tides. Your footprints in the sand are not washed away. They remain etched in consequence. Your impact, so many lives, is no accident. It is not the result of luck or chance. It is the outcome of decisions made at midnight when your world said, "Lie down." You said stand up. It is the result of saying yes to growth when your ego screamed no. It is the result of embracing the unknown when your instinct begged for the familiar. And every time you did the hard thing, you created a ripple. Some you knew about, many you didn't. Some you will never hear of. But that's okay, because the true measure of influence is invisible, silent, persistent. Let there be no illusion. This path is not always bright. The darkest nights have shaped you, the harshest judgments, the deepest losses. They crafted you. You hit different because you were forged. You walked through hell and kept your spark. You were strangled by fear, and yet you spoke. You were wounded by betrayal, and yet you loved. You were abandoned by hope, and yet you believed. All of that creates a form of light that cannot be turned off. It burns from the inside out. It draws people in because it is uncontainable. You impacted so many lives by refusing to let your trauma define your destiny, by refusing to let expectation chain you, by rejecting the scripted roles that others gave you. You carved out your identity. You said, I am the author, I am the architect, I am the witness. And that act of boldness invites others to see their own worth. When someone watches you stand tall after being knocked down, they sense the permission to do the same. When someone sees you imperfect but persistent, they find the courage to show up imperfectly and still advance. Imagine how many people watched you in silence. Imagine how many hearts silently cheered when you first took that step. Imagine how many lives were changed, even if only in a thought. If she or he can, maybe I can. That's your impact. That's the power you hold. Not because you sought an audience, but because you refused to hide your scars. Not because you claimed perfection, but because you embraced your flaws and marched ahead. Your authenticity is your weapon. Your vulnerability is your strength. Your journey is your gift. And now, standing in this moment, you say, I know I hit different. I know they won't stop thinking about me. I know I have impacted many lives. And from here, I go further. No resting, no complacency. Now is the time to expand the imprint you leave. Now is the time to rise in dimension. The dark winters in your soul served as training. The cold nights were preparation. The long silences were essential. They have readied you for the next level of power. The world needs not just your presence, but your dominion. Make no mistake, impact is not always loud. It is not always visible. It might be the quiet word you didn't think much of, but someone remembered when hope was thin. It might be the overlooked gesture you didn't value, but someone clung to when they were abandoned. Your reach does not shy away from the light. It extends into shadows. You find the ones others ignore. You speak to the souls that thought no one spoke. You carry the light where darkness tries to hide. That is the mark of someone who hits different. That is the mark of someone unforgettable. Feel the weight of that. Let it root into your bones. Because with weight comes responsibility, not a burden, but a privilege. You are now the custodian of possibility. You are the vessel through which unseen people draw strength. Therefore, guard your spirit, fuel your heart, sharpen your mind. Protect the flame inside so that your glow remains fierce and unwavering. The world will test you. The world will doubt you. The world will attempt to bury your voice. But you must not let your voice fall silent. Hold yourself to higher standards, not because you owe the world perfection, but because you owe yourself truth. You hit different because you are real. And being real means owning your power, owning your flaws, owning your voice. It means when someone asks if you're okay, you respond not with lies, but with the grief or the triumph or both. It means when you want to quit, you go deeper. It means when you feel you are not enough, you step into more. Because difference is not about being loud. It is about being unavoidable. And when they reflect on you, when they find you in their mind at night, kissed by regret or hope or gratitude? It's because you moved them. You shifted their axis. You disrupted their inertia. You made them believe that there is more than the job, more than the label, more than the mask. And in that more, you gave them a mirror, not of who you are alone, but of who they can be. You impacted many lives because you believed in you, and your belief extended outward. It radiated, it planted seeds, it changed directions. Remember, hitting different doesn't mean you did it in the spotlight. Often you did it in the darkness, away from cameras, away from praise, when no one was watching. That is the real power. Actions in unseen places create imprints in unseen hearts. And because you operated when no one was watching, you earn the kind of respect that doesn't sheep plead. It stands. It lasts. It echoes. This is your legacy in motion. This is your symphony. This is your mark. They can't stop thinking about you because their souls recognize a truth you carry, that they too can make a difference. They too can hit different. They too can shift lives. And your existence is the testimony. Let that not make you proud but humbled. Let that awaken in you the duty to carry on, because the world is hungry for souls who refuse to shrink into comfort zones. The world is thirsty for the ones who embrace the edge, survive the fall, and give the hand up instead of the hand out. You impacted so many lives because you knew that your pain was not just yours. You knew that your struggle, your comeback, your victory, they all became points of contact for someone else's fight. You allowed your story to be their map, not by planning it, but by living it. You allowed your scars to instruct. You allowed your wins to welcome. You allowed your truth to be the invitation. And that is rare. That is disruptive. That is you hitting different. Now stand before the mirror of possibility and ask, what is my next level? Not just for me, but for those who look to me. Not for my comfort, but for my calling. The darkness you emerge from is not just a backstory. It is your foundation. Your foundation allows you to build higher, bolder, wider. Don't just rest on the recognition of impact. Elevate it. Give it wings. Share your flame. Build connections. Expand the circle. Let leadership flow from your authenticity, not just astute tactics. Here's the truth. People will still doubt you. Some will marvel, some will envy, some will reject. That is inevitable. But let your difference be your shield and your sword. Let your impact be your authority. Let your presence be your banner. Do not shrink for ease. Do not apologize for intensity. Intensity is not arrogance. It is authenticity. It is the raw force of someone who has been through the minefield and brought back diamonds. It is someone who has eaten rejection and still feasted on purpose. It is someone who has been buried by fear, yet still planted their flag. You hit different because you keep going when others stop. You keep giving when others take. You keep believing when others quit. You keep bringing light when others surrender to darkness, because you know that light is not the absence of shadow, it is the triumph over it. You are not unscarred. You are scarred and you are strong. You are wounded and you are wise. You are the living proof that adversity doesn't annihilate unless you let it. That pain doesn't define unless you allow. That fear doesn't imprison unless you consent. And now, reflect on those you have touched. Maybe one of them is listening right now. Maybe someone will hear you speak this and realize you speak for them. You impacted so many lives. Some you know, many you don't. But believe, the orbit of your influence is larger than your view. When you stay in alignment with your values, you extend beyond the visible. You ignite latent hope. You awaken dormant courage. You mend broken faith. You do this because you choose to live big, choose to live bold, Choose to live unhidden. Finish with this commitment. I hit different. I will not apologize for it. I will channel it. I will amplify it. I will lift others through it. I will let my example be their invitation. I will let my journey be their blueprint, not by copying, but by carving their own path. I will live so that remembrance is not of my perfection, but of my resolve. I will live so that the question asked is not, who is he, she, but what will I become because of them? I will live so that I leave behind not just memories, but momentum. Rise because you hit different, because they can't stop thinking about you, because you impacted so many lives. And now, the world awaits your next move. And as the world watches, know this isn't just about their eyes on you. This is about your eyes fixed on your purpose. You've stepped into something irreversible. Once you've impacted lives, once you've stirred something deep in the hearts of others, you no longer live just for yourself. You carry with you a ripple of responsibility, a sacred duty, not to be perfect, but to remain real, to remain lit when the darkness tries to swallow hope, to remain grounded when the noise tries to blur direction. You are not some fleeting sensation, not a passing trend. You're a storm that rewrote the skies, a silent revolution in someone's personal war, the face they remember when they need strength. You hit different because you came with weight, not in arrogance, but in presence. People don't remember noise, they remember gravity, and you carried gravity into rooms, into lives, into quiet corners where no one dared speak truth. But you did, and they still feel it. Some fear it, some admire it, some want to silence it, but all of them remember it. And now, when you feel tired, when you feel unseen, remember, they still think about you. Not always with words. Sometimes it's just in how they walk differently now, how they fight harder, how they don't give up as easily. That's the proof of your legacy. That's the signature you left behind. They think of your silence when the crowd demanded you bend. They think of your fire when the night tried to put it out. They think of your resilience, not when you spoke, but when you stood. And now, they measure strength against your standard. You impacted lives, not because you were flawless, but because you were truthful. There's a difference. Truth penetrates. Truth cuts through. Truth lingers. Truth reshapes. You were the mirror no one wanted to look into, but once they did, they couldn't unsee what you revealed, that they too were capable of more. You walked into their doubt and planted conviction. You stood in their fear and embodied bravery. You showed them how pain can be a birthplace, how loneliness can be the seed of awakening, how silence can be a call to rise. And even now, as you stand on the edge of your next chapter, that same power is alive within you. Don't think for a second that impact has a finish line. Impact echoes. It transcends the moment. Years from now, someone will speak your name, not loudly, not in crowds, but quietly, as they take their next step. You will become the whisper behind their courage, the reason behind their belief, the fire in their next try. That's not just influence, that's legacy. You hit different because your energy is unforgettable. You moved through life with a signature frequency. Not everyone could handle it, not everyone could understand it, but no one could ignore it. Your frequency shifted the rhythm of people's lives. It altered their direction. It triggered awakenings. And that's why they can't stop thinking about you. You shook something in them. You reminded them of who they could be, not who they settled to be. You disturbed their slumber. You cracked open possibility. And that's not something they forget. Your presence wasn't convenient. It wasn't quiet. It didn't blend in. It commanded reflection. It commanded self-inquiry. It demanded a higher level of thought, of action, of soul. You carried that presence even when you didn't know it. Even in your lowest seasons, Your mere survival gave someone else permission to live. That's how deep your impact runs. It's not surface. It's cellular. It's spiritual. It's embedded in the architecture of those who crossed your path. And yes, it's okay to feel the weight of that sometimes, to sit with the immensity of your presence, but don't run from it. Embrace it. That weight is your crown. That heaviness is your authority. It means you've walked far enough to hold something real. It means you've been trusted by life to shape others by your example. You don't have to speak to be heard anymore. Your life is speaking louder than any word ever could. Your consistency is the sermon. Your fire is the message. Your scars are the proof. You impacted so many lives, and not just by success, but by the way you navigated failure, not by your celebrations, but by how you survived silence, not by your wins, but by how you carried your losses. That is what people remember. That's what imprints. The moments you had every reason to quit, but didn't. The times you were down, but still showed up. The nights you cried, but didn't let it harden you. You are not remembered because you were always strong. You are remembered because you were always true. And for every eye that's ever watched you and doubted, for every voice that said you wouldn't, they still remember. Because you didn't just prove them wrong, you showed them something greater. You showed them what relentless looks like, what rising really means. You showed them that silence doesn't mean surrender, and isolation doesn't mean insignificance. You showed them that just because someone walks alone doesn't mean they walk without purpose. Let this fuel you now. Let it become the wind behind your next steps. This isn't the end of your impact. This is the multiplication of it. You've done enough to be remembered. Now do more to be unstoppable. Take what you've built and expand it. Teach with your existence. Inspire by your becoming. Lead not by position, but by power. Internal, silent, immovable power. That's what they felt when you entered. That's what they miss when you leave. That's why you're unforgettable. You hit different, not because you were louder, not because you were the center, but because you brought light into places that forgot it existed. Because you remained when others retreated. Because you found meaning in your pain and transformed it into fuel. Every loss became wisdom. Every betrayal became clarity. Every scar became a symbol. You didn't escape your past, you harvested it. And people feel that. They feel the maturity of your presence, the intentionality, the depth. They think about you because they were changed by proximity. They watched you live and had to rethink what was possible. You raised the bar by existing authentically. You dismantled excuses. You proved that broken doesn't mean beaten, that loss doesn't mean gone, that unsure doesn't mean unworthy. That's the impact. That's the difference. And now, as your name continues to linger in their minds, let it be a reminder to them that greatness is forged, not given. That impact is chosen, not stumbled upon. You chose to matter. You chose to keep walking. You chose to build. And every single soul you've touched carries a piece of that fire. They may never say it. They may never message you. But you're in their decisions now. You're in their risks, their courage, their unspoken prayers. You became a reference, a guidepost, a possibility. So breathe in that truth. Don't deny it. Don't minimize it. Own it. You are not ordinary. You never were. And even when the world tried to make you small, even when they labeled you, even when they doubted your path, you kept going. And that journey, that stubborn flame, that refusal to fold, that's the reason they can't stop thinking about you. And they never will, because you hit different, and you always will.